So I gotta wonder, if we're talking about coming out, just think, what would it be like if we hadn't come out? What would our lives be like right now? What would my life be like right now if I wasn't out? Well, number one, I don't think that being as butch as I am, I don't think I could not be out. I don't think that I could pass for straight. But it's an interesting thought, and I was just wondering, how would your life be different if you hadn't come out when you did, or if you weren't out right now? How would that be different? I don't know if there's anybody who watches our videos that's not out, but, what's it like for you? Because I don't know what it's like to hide my sexuality. I don't know what it's like to hide the fact that I date women. And I don't remember what it's like, to tell you the God's honest truth, because ever since I've really been out in the world, so to speak, since I was 18 years old, I've been out. So, I didn't come out to my family for a couple of years later, but I wasn't around my family either. I was far, far, far away, in the service, but I was out. I wasn't out when I was on duty, so to speak. But I was out. Interesting thought. So, sitting here thinking about a piece I filmed yesterday about what it would be like if I wasn't out. That made me do a lot of thinking about, when I did come out and stuff, and God, it just seems like so long ago. And it was, admittedly, it was a long time ago. So I was thinking about that, there's a point, I think, when we come out where before we come out, we live two lives. We live this life that we want to be living, and then there's this life that we feel like we have to live in order for self-preservation or to save face with our family and friends. And I'm not sure where we get that. Where does that come from? Is that ingrained in us? Is there some sort of an expectation that, you have to be heteronormal, prior to coming out? Which, what does coming out mean? Coming out means it means opening up, opening the box, taking something out. And in our case, what we're taking out is our sexuality and saying, here it is, this is who we are. So we're coming out of the box, basically. And the box is the box that society has put all human beings in, as to being heterosexual. So we're coming out of the heterosexual box and saying, hey, here I am, I'm a lesbian. I didn't come out until after I left home. I didn't come out to my family until I returned home 4 years later. So, there was a period of time where I was living sort of a double life, even a triple life, if you really want to call it that, because I was out, actively dating women, out to my friends, and to most of them, and I was not out to my family. I was not out to the United States Army, but when I didn't have that uniform on, I was as out as they go. I came home on leave shortly before I got out, and I decided, oh gosh, I'm going to come back to these people when I get out of the service. I need to somehow figure out how I'm going to live. Funny story here. My dad at the time was building a bar for some ladies, and come to find out it was a gay bar. Number one, okay, which I thought was really interesting. So I went over there with him when he was on the construction project, and I was home on leave, and they took one look at me, and of course they knew, and I looked at them and kind of gave them the please don't tell my father look. And then there was the actual coming out to a family member, which was when I pulled my little sister into the bedroom that I was staying in when I was home, and said to her, I've got something to tell you. And she said, what's that you're gay? And of course I was like, how did you know? She says, we've always known, and went on to tell me that they just always assumed because I only hung out with girls that I was gay. Good assumption. Same thing with my brother a few weeks later, riding around in the truck, and he says, so when you going to tell me? And I'm like, tell you what? And he's driving the truck, and he's like, oh, tell me you're gay. And I'm like, well, obviously you already know. So, and my baby brother was awesome. Him and I are the closest. He's 11 years younger than me, and, he just came to me and gave me a big hug and a kiss and said, you're my big sister, and I love you, and I've always known. And so that was really interesting. My parents, I didn't quite do the coming out thing with. I just sort of let them absorb what was going on through my siblings. We're a pretty close-knit family, and, when one person knows something, pretty much everybody knows it. So, and I was petrified. I was just too petrified to look at my parents and tell them, and at that point in my life, I was still trying to be everything that my parents wanted me to be, and I felt that it was a disappointment to them, which is really sad, In hindsight, it's really sad that I felt that way. And today, my parents are two of my biggest supporters. They are awesome. It's just, I'm just Ange, and I'm just a lesbian, and that's just all there is to it, There's no big deal about it. And in today's society, is so much different than it was back then, 28 years ago. And I think today, we have a lot more role models than we had back when I came out. You see it on TV, you see it in the news. People are openly gay, athletes, actors, politicians. It's part of society now. And it really wasn't. And I don't know, young people don't realize that it wasn't always this way. It really wasn't. Look at this video. 20 years ago, I couldn't have made this video without probably repercussions for something. So, it's a lot different than it was. I think that, I don't know that it's easier today to come out. I think at least you've got a little more example in the public eye than we had back then. And I know anybody who's in their 40s like me that knows that, that understands what I'm saying here, that we didn't have those role models then, and that's something that I'm really glad that people have today. So let me kind of wrap this up. I've been out basically since 1984, and then when I got into my 40s here in the 2000s, I really came out as being Butch, and got realized that I was part of the LGBT community, the ButchFem part of that community, that was a little bit different than the mainstream part of the community. Had a little bit different twist, a little bit different dynamics, a little bit different in the sexual department, and that was something that really opened my eyes to who I really was. A part of me that I was really trying to stifle because it was frowned upon by a lot of the LGBT community. But, since I stopped trying to stifle that part of me, I've been happier than ever. So, I am happy being out, and I'm proud to be out, and I'm proud to be Butch. And, when you boil all the bullshit out of it, it's worth the pain of coming out, because you only go through it a couple of times. You might lose a couple of friends along the way. If you do, they weren't ever really your friends. So, if people can't accept people for who they really are in their hearts, then they're not really your friends. So, anyway, that's it for me this week. I hope everybody's doing well. We'll see what next week's topic's going to be. I'm having a real hard time choosing. I hope everybody's doing well. Rock on.